what I wanted to talk about, actually my headline got sidewinded by the summit. I wanted to talk a lot about advanced SPC and a little bit about the news. I'm going to be talking a lot about the news and a little bit about advanced SPC instead. So if you want to talk more about advanced SPC, I'll be in the bar. So I kind of picked out two topics for today where everything in here is super relevant to SPCs, and pretty much everything in here is relevant for all the presentations you've been seeing today. So I'm really happy about the content that I didn't know about up front, actually links in pretty well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that's going on in the framework. That's what we call Reimagine Safe. And then a lot of talks about products that are out, that are coming, that are on the foreseeable roadmap in the future, which is all relevant to SPCs. How many have heard about this one? How many have read it? There's still a few. Okay, so I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to do commercials or anything like that. The State of Safe report was really a report, an interview, cycle of questions that we did a long time ago to really understand what is the situation of safe out in the wild, out in the real world. And then for us, of course, it's a lot of insight into how you are perceiving and using safe. So what do we need this for? Well, we kind of had a feeling when you come to these events, and you talk to people that, well, we're doing safe-ish, or we are inspired by safe, or we're doing spotty safe, or all kind of different variants. So we wanted to get some more tangible evidence, not only to understand, but also to see how can we actually, as we put it, reimagine the framework and put in some products that can actually help you in the real situations that's been used out in the wild. So some of the findings that we saw in this report that helped us form our product roadmap, well, it talks a little bit about what is the level of maturity out in the organizations. You can see that we've been looking at some of the competencies, some of the core competencies we have, and when you go out and ask people, how are we doing on team or technical agility? How far advanced are we? You can see it's pretty high, 73%, we're doing quite well. On the other hand, if you're asking, and you could see that on some of the presentations as well, when we're talking about maybe lean portfolio management, that is an area where adaptation is lacking a little bit. Again, sending a signal to us, how can we help make that better somehow? So it's really, really good insights for us, and of course, with the link here before, this report is accessible to all of you who want to go in and have a look about the findings that we've seen. Another really clear message that was sent to us, and I see that reflected today, was some of the key points that we hear from you that you want us to focus on. You want to have a simplified framework. Everybody remember the big picture, full safe, all the images and icons out there, put it in front of a C-level and you're kicked out of the room. So we spend a lot of effort trying to simplify the big picture in here. You want flexibility. Hear a lot about the different implementations. You want to focus on practicality, not just having a theoretical framework, but how do you actually apply it. Now this is a really fun part for those of us who've been working with this for a long time, because if you did this 5 years ago and we made it extremely practical, people will say, you're prescriptive. So now we're trying to change that and make it a little bit more practical, so we're waiting for the feedback to see if we're being told we're prescriptive again. But we want to apply some more, how do we actually do this? And then a lot more focus on getting outcomes to the companies rather than, well, just get the process to work. Some other interesting findings as companies like yours are changing or adapting the framework are some of the comments we're getting. Like, we tried to adapt the framework, we eliminated the RTE role and sorted it into middle management, or we use safe names but haven't changed anything at all. And then you look at the bar down here, where 17% use it exactly as is, maybe vanilla safe, and pretty much 83% do something else to variety of degrees. So this is telling us a lot that maybe what we're doing is in need of some improvement. So we set out on this journey to reimagine SAFe, as we call it, and try to change the way that we can articulate how the framework should be used. I know some of you probably really happy about sitting and reading these 3,000 word articles in depth every time they come out. The first one in the morning. That doesn't happen very often when you look at the click rate on the articles. So we also wanted to change the language inside the framework. First of all, as you saw, we changed the big picture to a simplified big picture. But just a couple of weeks ago, we changed something significantly. And Carl actually hinted at this a little bit earlier. He started to talk about this leadership discipline. So have anyone else heard about this concept called a discipline in the framework? Okay, your life is about to change if you're teaching, by the way. So we talked a lot about these 7 core competencies of the framework. There are only 7, there shall be only 7, there can never be more than 7. It's kind of hitting us with a hammer, because what if we want to have more competencies? So we went in and we looked, and the whole word of competence is something you can do, something you can act on, something you can actually implement in your organization. And we really didn't think that the concept of LPM is just something you go in and implement. It's not really a competence. So we cut it down, we removed the core competencies. You won't see them in the framework anymore. They have been reintroduced or resurfaced as 5 disciplines that you see here. Some of them are probably very familiar to you. We still have LPM, we still have large solution, we still have some kind of Agile product delivery, though renamed into product delivery flow, team and technical leadership, leadership and culture. Those are the 5 disciplines that we have in there. So when you look at the framework today, you will have 5 new articles that have been released. This is the one from Lean Portfolio Management, where each one has this story that is designed to tell what is Lean Portfolio Management, in this case, all about. How does work flow through it? What people are in here? What is our Kanban system? How does our feedback loops look like? And we're going to use this, or hopefully you're going to use this, to tell the story inside your organization. And just to give you a little bit of help, it's not only accompanied by a visual. Each of the disciplines is accompanied by what we call a narrative story that really tells this, supports this visual here on how you could tell it inside your organization. So core competencies are out, 5 disciplines are in, each have a graphic and each have a narrative story that will take you through this. But if you go into the framework today, you will still see the picture, and just below that, you will see the different disciplines in here. You can click them, you can go into it, and you can start read about them. That also means that this one is going away. That one will cease to exist, but the need for competences in the framework still exists. It's just going to resurface as something else, something you can do, something that's going to solve real problems. So what does that mean? Well, we took a really deep look in each of the disciplines, and we wanted to find out what kind of business problems can we try to solve in here. And again, this is just some examples of some of the problems we want to solve. And then we wanted to unearth the competence that you need in order to solve this business problem. So it's kind of you're doing the first iteration of design thinking, and then you try to find the solutions. And then you start building these competencies. So we've been working, we've been brainstorming, we've been working with external people a lot to find out what would this first set of competencies for each of the disciplines be. So these are some of the examples. That also means that, see if the animation is working, if I need to do anything. For each of the disciplines, if you go down in the article, you will see the current set of competencies supporting the discipline. You will also see that some of them are in blue, and some of them are in gray. The blue are the ones we actually have written about, and the gray ones are still to come. So we're going to go into a more, let's say, continuous delivery mode, where we, a little bit at a time, as we dig into each of the competencies, we'll start to describe these competencies and then send out some information to you guys, the SPCs, whoever have enabled their mail, to understand more about these. So this is of course going to be something that is going to be dynamic, that's going to come new in. We're probably going to remove some other ones as they are no longer needed in the organization. But more and more of these will come over time. And for those of you who were at the summit, you'll know this. This is one of our key speakers, Mirko Kleiner. What we're doing is that we're also seeing that we don't have all the expertise within inside our company to have all of these competencies. So we're working closely with field experts like Mirko, who is expert is something as sexy as lean agile procurement, which is something of a niche area, but has written some really interesting content on this. So actually the work he's been doing, he's been writing into his book, will now work its way into that competence inside the framework. Just as the same with HR, being a people developer, not us that's directly are doing this. This is something that Just Leading Solutions, Michael Stump, has been leading that work and will be describing that. And maybe some of the work that Carl has been looking at, the leadership concept from early on, well, that may work its way in to the competencies with the leadership. Who knows? So this is something you're going to see more and more rapidly being released as we move forward. This also means that if you look at all the competencies, each of them is supposed to solve a problem. And not all of you are going to have the same problem to solve. So that means, and we kind of tested this at the summit in Sorrento, we're going to work with this little workshop we have that's called Configuring Safely, with how do you actually build your own set of competencies? How do you actually start to build your own framework based on those insights? So we're testing this workshop so you can figure out what parts do you need, what other parts are you inspired by, whether it's the product operating model, or it's flight levels, or it's maybe Spotify or something like that, without breaking the integrity of the principles and the core value that lies beneath the framework. So this is something we're exploring, making the framework much more modular and much more inspired, both internally but also from external sources as well. So you're going to see more about this even within this year. How many in here has been SPC more than 3 years? Okay, great, perfect. So some of you might have noticed that over the past 3 years, there's been, let's call it a decline in the amount of products that we have released. And many reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that level of detail, but you also notice that what's happened since November is that this is now going up. It's going up quite rapidly. We've put in a whole new strategy for product development, so you'll see a lot of new products coming out quite fast. So a little bit about what we released, what's coming next, and what's in the horizon to come. We're primarily focusing our work within these 4 areas here. We have some, again, what we call core offerings. We have a new area, so Jesper talked about that within safer hardware, something that we believe very strongly in is going to be some people call it a market, I call it an opportunity for a lot of organizations to be more lean and agile. We see government doing a huge pull for agility, and we want to have some steady continuous learning. We showed the implementation roadmap. We had this little bar at the end called Accelerate that nobody really knew what it was all about. It's just about, well, just get smarter and learn more and do it better. Well, we really want to put a lot of effort into what do you do next. What's after PI 10? What's after PI 15? How do you do this? How do you get better the whole time? So some of the content that was recently released, one of them being the advanced SPC. I'll show you a little bit of slide in a moment about that. We put out Advanced Scrum Master again. We had Advanced Scrum Master course before, but now this is being updated, renewed into a different format. We're trying to operate with different learning modalities, small e-learning courses that take 1 day, courses that take half a day, 2 days, 3 days. So really trying to give different opportunities to learn. And quite recently released, I think we released this 2 weeks ago, the Safe Business Owner. So how many in here has actually built their own business owner course in the organization they have? Yeah. I did so myself, and that's like, I don't know, 6 years ago. But we've been working very closely with some of our partners who had a lot of content in this field, been testing it for a couple of months now, and this is looking promising. At least the customers are quite happy to see this little micro-credential being up there. Short, efficient, and designed for business owners who do not have a lot of time within to go into training. Just to dig a little bit into the advanced SPC, I know that Carl, remind me, you're running it in 2 weeks, right?
Something like that.
Something like that in an online setting. It's much different from what you see in a normal course, right? So of course the prerequisite, you need to be an SPC to come into the course. We want you to do a little bit of e-learning before. So we have this writing effective OKRs, which is an e-learning module. It's just about half an hour, 1 hour to do. But then you will have what we call 4 structured modules about transformation strategy, how to excel with lean portfolio management, engaging leaders, and pursuing relentless improvement, where we're really trying to up the competence and share knowledge between the participants for this. And then it all comes together in this, what we call a facilitated peer learning session or a learning lab, where we kind of elaborate on all of these topics together so that we can have much more competent SPCs out there, not only taking the 4-day course, but actually something where we can know, understand, and learn. And this is already out there. We've been running a number of sessions with this. So the feedback has been quite good, I would say. We also recently released some workshops. Again, workshops is something that's available to you as SPCs that don't cost anything. You can even do some small modifications to it that looks into accelerating flow, measure and grow. And one of my favorites is the Measuring Business Benefits of SAFE, which is really going to talk about how do you link the needs of the business to the transformation itself. So it's not this decoupled thing where you 1 year into a transformation is being asked by some kind of senior business person, so what did I get out of my transformation? What did I get out of my money? This workshop is really about linking the two together very early on in your transformation to get this linkage. Big favorite of mine. So Jesper talk, at least I was super happy to see some of the slides from the course up here. We had a little core team of 2.5 persons developing the course, plus an extended core team of about, how many were we here? 8 to 10 people? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Fredrik was part of participating in that, trying to build out this, and I'm a little bit sad about the naming. It should have probably been more like Safe for Hardware Leaders. It was a variant of Leading Safe, at least so it started out. We said we're going to change 30% and keep 70. Well, turned out the other way. We're going to change 70% and keep 30% instead. So it's a hardware variant of Leading Safe and formed in a way that we really think came out quite well. And then some more work within the government sector. I tried to have a discussion with my friends in the US about maybe removing some of the US-centric stuff, the flag and stuff, because of the popularity of the American government. They might do that. Let's see if that happens. It's good to have some representation in Europe instead of everybody sitting in the US. And then looking into the near future. So we're going to continue to release in kind of this pace going forward. So just look at April, we're going to look at RFP materials for government contracts. We wrote this ebook I don't know if anybody remember the old, what do we call it, Carl? Do you remember?
Which one?
Before Safe Explained, we called it
Safe Distilled?
Safe Distilled, and when I started as SPC, it was like this thick. Okay. Now it's 28 pages, and it's actually designed for maybe higher level leadership to get a broader understanding, a shorter read to understand what SAFE is all about, instead of putting them into a 2-day leading SAFE class. So that's a really good starting point. Leading SAFE, change for government, more government contracts, or a lot of government contract coming out. Same workshop, but for government. Some of the other interesting stuff is we're putting a lot of work into the SAP implementation that's going on at the moment. We're looking more into AI. We are almost done with building SAFE for hardware teams. If you ever started an art with hardware people in it, using the existing SAFE for teams, I would say you're in for an interesting challenge since everything is software there. So that's been tested a couple of times, and we're going to probably release that in early June. Some of the things I also look forward to is a workshop around large solution, and there's more to come on the large solution as well, because if you then look even further into the future, so now we're in the funnel of the backlog. It means I make no promises, but some of the things we are looking at is advanced RTE. So not only the RTE course for the RTE that's been an RTE for like 3 to 5 PIs, but actually something more in-depth and substantial for the RTEs that have these 40-45 PIs on their back. Advanced product owner training, SAFE for large solution. How do you actually set up solution trains? How do you run them? How do you make them work? How do you get the art to collaborate together with the rest of the organization? We already started on that. And then my personal favorite is what we call it reimagined. I mean, redo leading SAFE and implementing SAFE. They've been in the market for, you know better than me, Carl, many years. And we took a really good stab at it here at our summit to say, well, what is it we need? Some of the feedback we got is take leading out of implementing. Focus more on the implementing part, and then maybe take leading SAFE and breaking that up into 3 different parts for 3 different customer segments. Leaders, art leaders, and maybe some general SAFE fundamentals training for people. So this is the future, but hopefully not a too distant future that's coming. And for those who are interested, I can share the slides afterwards. So we have the SAFE Explained ebook that's downloadable directly. There's the State of SAFE report that's downloadable. And then quite recently you're here also for the summit. I don't know how many of the companies that are present here who have senior leadership talking about the product operating model, and that's the new thing that we're going to focus on and change to. Well, we had a deeper research and look at that and created this little white paper called the product operating model at scale. How can they actually work well together in a scaled environment? So I actually succeeded in getting my stuff done in time with even 1.5 minutes to spare. I'll spend the last 1.5 minutes in the bar answering any questions there might be, and then I can hand it over to Frederick for finishing. Oh, we have time for a question. Absolutely.
Just since you're changing the articles and the graphics and so on, is there some ideas of changing the classic teaching materials like European, Scrum Master, and so on?
Yeah, there are. So I think I'm going to use my 1.5 minutes. So, for example, how can we start to incorporate the use of AI into the role-based courses? Would be an example. How could you use AI as a product owner, as a product manager, as an RTE, those kind of things. The new disciplines, the competencies are of course going to work their way into the courses as well. So yes, we're going to continue at the same pace. Quite busy, but really looking forward to many of the changes that are coming, especially the whole configurability in a secure and safe manner. Sure.
You have a question about the advanced SPC. There are no requirements on experience to become an advanced SPC, just that you have a current SPC certification.
Just need to have a currency.
Okay. You don't have an idea why there aren't any requirements?
Like we had this is my guess. Like we had the RTE class. The RTE class is a workshop-based, experience-based class. Could you take it with no experience? Yes, you could. Did that happen? Many times. So we don't want to be the gatekeepers of this. We want to state what we think is a good idea, but we're not going to do any hard stops on that. We are, though, if you look at it, see if I can come back to it. It's going to be really, really sad class if you come in there and as a new SPC talking about these things here and you don't have a clue what you're talking about. So no, we don't want to be gatekeepers, but you're not going to get as much value out of this if you are not some way an experienced SPC.
Yeah, okay. It will be self-regulating for us.
Cool. Oh, there's more questions. You stop me when I don't need to talk anymore. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Regarding the safe for hardware, what is the eligibility criteria to start training the hardware courses?
Well, so that's a little different. I was part of writing the material and I worked in hardware for some years. I was still extremely uncomfortable teaching that part. It's like teaching APM and you're not a product manager. Good luck with that. So for the time being, we have some limitations on who can teach us, at least publicly. I didn't bring that slide, I have it somewhere. So publicly we have some very strict regulations on that. Internally, I believe that we will allow you to teach it because we don't really control that, but publicly that's at least a gold partner with an SPCT in there and some blessed silver partners, as we call them, who have hardware experience.
Okay, what about private? Privately, any SPC can get finish this?
On the top of my head, yes.
Okay,
Privately. And privately means within one company with the same people from that company, not pure teacher. Yeah.
So we have to finish this enablement course and then start training people.
Yeah, but if you try teaching the APM not being a product manager or having experience there, you will get the exact same. This is a super tough course to teach if you don't know what hardware is about. And hardware engineers, they're ruthless. Trust me.
And I could see a lot of software terms in your previous slides. That is confusing for hardware companies when you introduce SAFe. So many things about software, and people from the hardware will complain about SAFe that this will work only in software. We are trying to teach something working in software, and maybe SAFe should think about removing the software and then making it a product or solutions rather than software and hardware.
Yeah, we'll put it into the background. We are aware of the challenges, and we will see how we work out. But at least now we're trying to serve the hardware community with hardware-specific content, and then we'll listen to the feedback and we'll see what changes we need to.